We got a suggestion for a main topic today. Regular working folks cannot afford the crazy exotic cars. So could we come up with a list of the blue collar versions or blue collar equivalents of some exotic sports cars? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you, as always, by Off the Record. We love Off the Record. If you go on road trips, if you drive for a living, if you just drive, if you like driving, you need to have Off the Record in your pocket and ready to go. You want to download that Off the Record app and use code TSTPOD, or you want to go to offtherecord.com/TST and make an account, because what Off the Record does is they're working in the background. They're there for you when you need them. If you get pulled over for a moving violation of any kind, you get a ticket, you need Off the Record to fight that ticket for you. They'll set you up with a qualified attorney in the jurisdiction where you got that ticket. They'll fight that ticket. They'll go to court. They'll talk to the prosecutor. And then odds are pretty good that you will get an email or a text saying, hey, your case has been dismissed. That's what they've done for me a whole bunch of times, and it's what they've done for a whole bunch of you folks out there too, because I get emails all the time talking about how Off the Record took real good care of these folks. So download that Off the Record app for iOS and Android. Use code TSTPOD, that's TSTPOD, or go to offtherecord.com/TST and you'll get 10% off all legal services booked through Off the Record. Now, today, it is a crew show, and we have a lot to cover. We talk about what's the cheap way to get an exotic car experience, affordable versions of supercar driving experience. What new or used car can you buy that's got similar fizz to a 911, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or more? We've got the answers. Plus, I am shipping my engine to Italy, and we talk about that. I finally got to check out the electric Macan in person down at the Porsche Experience Center, and we've got great questions from our patrons about when you should buy a Lexus versus a Porsche Panamera, what you should do to get a good rental car for people that don't trust the reliability of Turo. Can you buy a convertible when living in a wintry place, and a whole lot more on today's crew show. It's the Smoking Tire Podcast. Let's go.
Get the thing that like goes around your neck and holds the phone above your face.
Oh man, like fucking Neil Young's accordion.
Yeah, or someone's harmonica.
Joke, harmonica,
yeah.
Not accordion, harmonica. Yeah.
Yeah, you and Bob Dylan. Yeah. You can just take his old harmonica holder.
And instead of the harmonica, I can just use my lips to scroll.
I mean, if you lost your arms, that's what you'd be doing.
Right.
That sucks.
I think it's a sign that I just need to be on my phone less.
Of course.
And I've been on my phone less because I'm doing a half-hour guitar every day. So that's almost 100% of that time is coming from...
When did your hand start hurting?
Before that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you haven't talked about it in a long time.
It's not...
Oh, I thought it was...
The motion of guitar. No, my
your right hand hurts.
My right hand hurts, which would be my strumming hand. So it's not from guitar. It's definitely from phone. Oh. Like when I hold the phone, it hurts more. Like when I put the phone down for a while, it hurts less.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not from guitar.
I hurt a tendon in my finger like 2 months ago, whatever, rock climbing. It was really messed up for 2 months. If you had asked me to lift this remote control with this finger, I couldn't do it. Yeah. It hurt too bad. And I found this great training thing. You put a fuck ton of rice in a bucket, and it's all these hand motions. Oh, yeah. And it 100% fixed it in 5 weeks. I did it every other day.
Then you switch the rice with glass. Do it again.
But I'm just saying,
you light the glass on fire.
It helps blood flow to all of your tendons.
Right, but if you were a movie villain, glass.
Well, if I was tough, I start punching the glass.
Yeah, you'd have to dip your hand in glue and then start punching the glass.
Right, and then I'm ready for the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're fucking good. Yeah.
I'm just saying it helped a lot for tendon issue.
Dip your hand in toy Cybertrucks. You'd be ready to fuck people up.
Yeah, then my hand would be subject to a lot of recalls.
We're going to need to see that hand. But yeah, it hurts like shit. I need to be on my phone even less. And now I'm going to up it to an hour of guitar because that's better. no more calluses on my fingers don't hurt anymore.
Oh, for the first
If you play
2 weeks
guitar, every day for like a half hour to an hour, like, and you haven't for a while, your fingers will hurt like shit.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but it doesn't anymore, which is a good sign.
Nice. You're getting your muscle memory back.
Yeah. I'm learning how to play some things. I took Misha's guitar off the wall today and tuned it and played it. It's nice.
Cool.
It's very nice. I haven't really played it much before. It's just been on the wall here.
It's nice looking.
Yeah.
It's just been there.
Yeah. Nice Jackson Periphery edition. Let's see. What's going on today? I went with Hannah to see the electric Macan today.
Oh.
At the Porsche Experience Center.
Okay.
We got to poke around it, and they wouldn't let me drive it, which is silly because I'm me. But also, like, it wasn't like me going as
Wait,
me.
they wouldn't let you drive it because you're you, or it's silly because you're you?
It's silly that they wouldn't let me drive it because it's me.
Right, I agree.
But I also didn't give a shit because I could... Because
my video was very thorough.
Because your video was very thorough, and I know what it is, and so I didn't care.
Okay.
And I went for a ride on the track with a very nice instructor who did his job. And you were right. I absolutely could have written a review of that car without going on the launch. But it is the thing you think it is. It's exactly the thing you think it is. Seats were just great. The interior was beautiful, really, really nicely put together. But it's still, and the reason we went is because we have one on order, but it's very expensive. And at the time that we ordered it, we didn't know that the electric car market would go completely in the fucking toilet, and you could now buy all of these sort of mid-range electric crossovers for like 8 pennies.
Yeah.
I mean, they're giving these fucking things away.
You mean new or used?
New.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, the fucking Cadillac Lyrics are like 30% off. Mach-E's are cheap. All the Hyundais and Kias, they're fucking giving these things away, bro. So like, and the new Macan, like, lovely, but there's not going to be cash on the hood for this thing for a while.
Yeah.
So like, it's either like high-end, expensive luxury car at full price, or like mid-tier one that we're totally fine with. No problems there for like half of what it should be.
I wonder what XMs are going for.
Cheap. But they're heinous looking.
They are.
Yeah.
The interior is supposed to be very nice. We haven't driven one, but they look terrible. Yeah. Couldn't walk out to that every day. I mean, every time I see an EV6, I'm like, ooh,
that's
nice.
That's
a good looking car.
Cheap.
I bet.
Cheap.
But you guys didn't like the seats, right?
No, I mean, we didn't like that the seats were not memory in the GT.
Yeah.
But they're comfortable. They're manual.
Manual.
Yeah. But, Hannah was like, they were like, what do you, to Hannah, like, she didn't want to go on the track. And they're like, why not? And she's like, well, A, I get motion sickness, and B, like, I don't care. Like, I came down here to see, like, if I can see over the hood and, like, what the buttons are like. And so she played around with the one in the showroom, and I went for, like, a ride on the track. It's just very nice looking thing. I mean, it's roomy, and it's really, really put together very nicely. The materials are great. Looks good. It's a good looking car.
Yeah, it's exactly what you expect.
It's exactly the thing you want.
And it meets the expectations. Like we all have expectations, and it meets them. Great.
Yeah, and there's more rear seat room than the last Macan because there's no fuel tank there.
Yeah. And the wheelbase, I think, is 4 inches longer.
Yeah.
So you have more.
Lots of room in the back.
I mean, I sat behind myself, no problem.
Yeah, lots of room in the back. But, I don't know if...
It's a lot, though.
It's a lot of money, and with no discounts when everything else is at a discount.
Right.
It doesn't...
Like, it's like, okay, you don't like the lack of memory seats in EV6, for example. But if the price delta is $30,000...
Yeah.
Let's say you drive the thing... 600 times, like you can do that math. Like, how much am I being paid to move this seat?
$10 a drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
It ends up like if you go by our old Mach-E lease compared to this lease, compared to the new Macan, it's about $250 a month more, which isn't nothing. That's real money, but it is a nicer car. But when you go off what it would cost me to lease the same Mach-E today, that's $250 less than I was paying. So it's really $500 a month more.
That's a lot.
Which is almost double.
Yeah.
It's just under double what it would cost me to lease the same Mach-E or an Ioniq 5 or a Cadillac Lyriq or an EV6. Like, actually, EV6s would be even less. But, like, EV6s are, like, in the 4s. Fucking F-150 Lightnings are in the 4s. I could get a Rivian R1S for, like, $699. So, like, I can't see the math on spending that much money on a leased luxury crossover for doing errands in LA.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's not it's a good car and it's a fun car, but it's not a special car.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard to make that stretch if you're in a certain financial position.
It's just if money didn't matter, like hell yeah, great daily driver. All aboard. But like, man, money's real right now, and it's just hard to justify that. But it is very nice, and the ride quality is very good. I was impressed with the ride.
Great. It was dynamically great, road great, all that stuff. I mean, I had very few complaints about that car.
Yeah, and they had like 4 of them at the PEC, and the difference between the base wheels that are free and the other wheel choices that are like thousands and thousands of dollars, like they look awful with the base wheels and look great with the good wheels, and the good wheels are $5,000. Crazy.
Smart. Make the stock wheels look like shit. Yeah.
Terrible.
Someone, Flannel Bob, shout out, patron long time, but he just said that the Koenig Ferrari sold today.
It did. Yes. It sold for a lot less money than I thought it would have. Which is it's surprising. I thought this would have gone for more. I mean, I talked to
It sold for people listening. It sold for $525,000 on Bring It Trailer.
Yeah. And we know the seller of this car. Mm-hmm. He was all right with it. He made a little bit of money. Not as much as he had hoped, obviously, but he made a little bit of money on it. It's weird because, I would have thought that it would have gone for 7, 8. It's not a perfect example, but it's pretty good. Yeah. And some of the things that we criticized in our video were addressed. They put new tires on it and some other things. But I would have thought that it would have gone for more.
Well, what does a regular Testarossa go for?
I mean, a great Testarossa is probably $200,000. A great 512 TR might be $3,000.
I think I understand this is unique, limited edition, but I think we've talked about this before. It's not the car that was on the poster, right? It was on fewer posters. Yeah. The 512 or the Testarossa, those are the ones more people's brains remember from when they were teenagers. Yeah. So this doesn't have that immediate recognition. And then you kind of have to make sure they know or learn about the story of Koenig. And it's very cool and exciting, but I think it's just the market is a lot smaller and you have to be more convincing to them about it. It's like you're getting almost 100% over like a 512.
Yeah. But it's, I don't know, I thought given the rarity, because there's only, I think, 20 of these, 21 of them, I thought that it would have gone for more. I don't know, maybe if it went to curated and they did a major service on it and made it perfect, and there were no questions at all, and they, spent months finding the exact right buyer, maybe they could have gotten more.
I wonder. So, Roof is unique, right? They were a tuner. First of all, they're one of their very early cars decimated competition, right? The Yellowbird. Yeah. But then they continued to make cars that were also very impressive. So I wonder if companies like Koenig, if they didn't continue to build things and to keep reminding people that they were around, do you lose some of that marketing and success that you got from the 80s? Yeah.
Sure. So cars that are still around, companies that are still around today. Their earlier cars are worth more than cars that aren't around anymore. A Firebird versus a Camaro. The fact that Chevy is still here and people under the age of 30 have never heard of a Pontiac. Yeah. That kind of thing.
What about Callaway, Kleeman, some of these various tuners? I wonder how their values change.
Yeah, I mean, Roof still being around, it's so different that it's its own VIN number, and it's also kind of better, right? But also, where to send it to get serviced or restored. You know what I mean? Like if you got a roof, you can send any roof from any period in history back to roof.
Yeah.
And they can make it perfect.
True.
Like where the fuck do you send a Koenig? You know what I mean? Who knows? Where's the blueprints for what they did?
Yeah.
You know, so there's kind of that.
You got to find. I was reading Sam Smith's book, which is so funny and so good. Holy crap, it's annoying. Like I don't even know why I even try to write words on a page when I read that shit. It's so good. But he's talking about driving a pre-war Alpha, and it's like it's serviced by these two guys up in Seattle. And I read that, and I just imagine their technical acumen for cars of that era to be able to work on a car that's that old, and it's also an old F1 car. Like that's the kind of person you need that will work on something like this. Like someone who just knows machinery really well, but is used to working on high-level stuff. Yeah,
there's not a lot of people that could easily work on that car. And there's certainly some, but it probably does affect the value somewhat. But yeah, a brand still being around, that helps. Because it becomes like a vintage Alpina. You know, if Alpina didn't make it past 1991, would those cars be as valuable as they are today?
Right.
But you could send that car back to Alpina. You could get original parts from Alpina. You could get certificate of authenticity from them.
You get information. Even if you had someone else working on it, you could still get information. Same with like Brabus.
Yeah.
Same, you know, you get a rocket from 20 years ago or further back.
And still get some kind of service, you know, or you know, documentation for it. Whereas good luck with a Koenig. So I don't know. I mean, it was a real neat experience driving that car. And if you haven't seen the video, you should go watch it. It's kind of nuts.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. And also, like, I think the fact that the body was that the car was like heavier than stock, like. That's very, like, if it was 400 pounds lighter than stock, if it was a full carbon Kevlar body, you know, like a Yellowbird is better than a regular 911, objectively and subjectively. Yeah. Whereas this, yes, it's like 1,000 horsepower, maybe. It's a lot of power for sure. Yeah. But, like, it's also heavier. And so, like, it loses some of the essence of the Ferrari. Like if you took a 512 and you gave it to someone like what's the guy's name that built the 348 turbo that you drove? Maxwell.
Maxwell. Give it to Steve, who's a brilliant psycho, and he had the stock car body, stock weight. I mean, it would get a little heavier with the turbo setup. That might be a Frankenmobile that people would really be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Maxwell or some lunatic like him could probably build a better version of this without too much trouble, especially if you went to, you know, a Vorsteiner or someone that could make the panels in carbon, you know, and you could have, I think didn't we look on some website somewhere, and I think you can buy a carbon body like this today.
I think we found the original Koenig site.
It was the original one?
Which was like it was made in 92 and was just left alone. Yeah. And I think they had an option on there for carbon, but I don't know if you could get that today.
This car did not have it.
Yeah.
Some may have. I don't know. But that could be why. Speaking of who's going to work on things, the two guys came to our South Bay store, West Side Collector Car Storage, yesterday and crated up my Countach powertrain.
Oh yeah, okay.
To send to Italy. Nice little crate there. Oops. Took the guy about 3 hours to build it, and sending it off to Italy.
It all fits in there. Wow,
it does.
That's amazing.
There's some good packaging. So there's
this is so cool.
Yeah, and yep, engine. Apart. It's not pictured, but the gearbox is in there too.
No shit. I was going to ask, and I thought that'd be a dumb question because it doesn't look like it would fit.
Yeah, it was. Wow. The gearbox was in there.
It's all stacked on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talked to John Tamarian about this pretty extensively, and it's not that there isn't anyone in America that could do this work. There are people in America who could do the work. But, you know, according to John, who has sent 40 engines to this team in Italy.
Wow.
He said as far as the consistency of the work, because it's all they work on are Italian V12s. It's all they do, vintage Italian V12s. So like you find a guy in America that maybe he's done 4, 5, 10 Countach motors, maybe the best ones. The guys in Italy have done 300, 400.
Yeah.
And he said these guys in Italy, because they have everything there, they know exactly what to do. They can turn the engines around in a predictable period. They know it is going to take this long.
Yeah, and they have every part on the shelf.
Yeah.
And they're probably very close to the supplier. Like Donnie with all of your cars, when he would need a part, he often got it from Italy.
Yeah.
So they're down the street.
They're there.
Yeah.
And he said like even with the shipping, it's cheaper, it's more consistent, and it's a more predictable time frame to just go to Italy. And he's like, they'll come to you, they'll crate it, and they did. The company came to me, crate it up, take it away.
Oh, this wasn't like a third party that does crating. It was from.
I know it was the shipping company that the Italian folks use.
Okay,
Yeah,
so everyone in the chain is familiar with the process.
Everyone in the chain knows exactly what is going on and where the thing is going, and it's all through curated. So like, and there's a couple fucking whiny ass people in the comments that are like, fucking only an idiot would think that sending it to Italy is better than doing it here. Like, it's not like I just came up with this.
Yeah, you don't do car things flippantly. I mean, you do a lot of research, buying, selling, repairing. Like you find the car or the guy or the woman. Like you do.
I take the time to make the phone calls.
Yeah.
I talked to a whole bunch of people about this. This was the best path forward for this. It ain't cheap, but according to the person I trust who does this shit a lot, it is the most consistent, most cost-effective, and most seamless way to get this done.
And those are all very logical, pragmatic, financial reasons to do it. And then on the other side, there's an emotional component, at least if I was in your shoes, where like, I'd rather have it done in Italy. It's an Italian car. It's a Lamborghini. And I know that people might get mad. That doesn't always mean the work will be better. But there's something about sending it back to where it came from, roughly, region-wise, and having it done there that is more special. Like Larry Chen right now is having his R34 completely disassembled, reassembled in Japan. And it's a brilliant company. They laser scan the whole thing. They basically make it OEM plus. I mean, like down to the shell. And it's very cool to have that done there, even if there was an equal party in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, my preference wouldn't be like, oh, it's got to go to Italy. I don't give a shit as long as, but like my cylinder heads, for instance. Folks, got to take a quick break from the show for today's sponsor, Delete Me. Listen, this is a very important service, Delete Me, and you got to hear me out on this one because odds are that you or someone you know has been the victim of identity theft. They could have been harassed or scammed, or they or you get tons of spam, tons of robocalls. You know how that happens? It's because your online data that comes from the convenience we all like about online shopping and mailing lists and just buying things and existing online, your data gets sold through data brokers, and then it becomes usable and purchasable by all kinds of people. We're easy targets because we love our online convenience, but we can protect ourselves and get peace of mind with Delete Me. There is so much of your personal data on the internet for people to see. Your name, contact info, social security number, home address, and even information about your family members. It's all being compiled by data brokers and openly sold online. People can get your private information, which can lead to all kinds of bad things: identity theft, phishing attempts, harassment, spam calls, and more. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. Delete Me finds and removes any personal information that you don't want online and makes sure that it stays off. Delete Me is a subscription service that removes your personal information from the largest people search databases on the web, and in the process helps prevent potential ID theft, doxing, and phishing phishing scams, and it's very easy, right? You just sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly the information that you want deleted. Their experts take it from there. Delete Me will then send you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed. And Delete Me is not just a one-time service. Delete Me is always working for you, monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want on the internet. To put it simply, Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal info off the web. That's why data brokers hate Delete Me. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/tire and then use promo code TIRE at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/tire and then enter code TIRE at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/tire, code TIRE. All right, now back to the show. My cylinder heads, for instance, like those weren't at Donnie's. When I had to go up to Donnie's and get all my shit, like the cylinder heads weren't there. They had been at the machine shop right around the corner from here, really close to here. They'd been there for 6 months.
Yeah.
And when I went to go to the machine shop to ask about getting my heads, they're like, oh, yeah, they're here. And I go, what have you guys done? And they go, nothing. And I go, are you going to do anything? And they go, yeah, we're going to get to them in like a month or two. And according to Donnie, who, again, as we've said many times, has many faults, okay? But one of which is not fixing old cars. He happens to be very good.
Yeah.
Whatever his fucking flaws are, guy's good at fixing old cars. And so he said this was the best place in the LA area to have these engines machined. And so the heads are going to sit there for 6 months and maybe they'll work on them in 2 months. No fucking points against this machine shop. It's like two fucking old guys and they're backed up and this is slow, hard work. And I bet they don't have a lot of young people coming in there wanting to learn how to machine Countach heads. Mm-hmm. But like, that's what we're dealing with by getting this kind of stuff done in America or in locally. I don't know about all of America, but like.
Well, it sounds like this place in Italy, and they could be anywhere in the world. I think it's a cherry on top. It's being done in Italy, but the other reasons that you chose them are very logical. But if this is their specialty,
yeah.
But this other machine shop down the street might do heads in general.
They do.
Right. So they're a motorsports shop.
Yeah.
And they may be, their skill set is probably getting rarer, so they may have a bigger backlog.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're dealing with.
Today they're doing a 427, and tomorrow they're doing a Dino, and the day after that they're doing a fucking Nissan, mm-hmm. and then, so maybe they've done a Countach or two before, but there could very well be things that are incredibly specific to this car where the knowledge of, well, we've machined 300 sets of Countach heads, so we know exactly what this thing needs.
Yep.
Plus, they put the engine back together, they run it on a dyno, they check it. They're not.
That's great.
It's not going to come back from there in pieces. It's going to come back a complete engine that we just go and goes right in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then there's a place that does the CIS injection in Alabama. And you send all the fuel system to them, and they either clean it and refinish it or whatever, and they program your fuel computers. Apparently, this is where Curated sends their CIS stuff too. So
you got a custom tune, sort of.
I don't know if
or is it more just a refurb on the existing system.
I think it's a refurb to factory fresh.
Okay,
which is what we want.
Right. Then you give it to Mitch, the key, the expert tuner.
Were you weren't in the elevator yesterday when I mentioned Bosch CIS to him, and he rolled his eyes and he said, "Oh, please God, no." Because I showed him the Bentley, and I was like, "It's got a big turbo in it." He's like, "Just one?" I'm like, "Yeah, just one." I go, "You want to tune it?" He goes, What's the ECU? And I go, Bosch CIS, and he goes, No, I don't want to be part of that. So we're looking at about 3 to 4 months until I get it back. So it goes on a plane, not on a boat.
Cool.
So we'll see. I'm not exactly in a hurry.
I think it's awesome.
And then the car will be reassembled here.
Did you find a place to do that yet?
I have it's down to 2 places, but we're gonna be in Miami next week to talk to John Tamarian in person, and we'll be able to figure out when I have to send out the injection stuff to them guys, and then which of the places that we've narrowed it down to we should send the car to for reassembly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's happening. That's fun. So we got a suggestion for a main topic today from, who is it from? You sent me the question, but I didn't see which patron it was. You just sent it on text and said a patron said this. But
Let me find it.
While Zach looks, the basic premise was, regular working folks cannot afford the crazy exotic cars. So could we come up with a list of the blue collar versions or blue collar equivalents of some exotic sports cars?
So this is from John Osborne.
Okay.
And he has a C7 Corvette, and he used to joke that it was the working person's Ferrari F12 because it has similar characteristics, similar character, but is obviously much more affordable. So yeah, he was the one who put forth this question. What are other working people substitutes for exotic cars?
Right. So I came up with a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
7 cars.
Yeah, and I only have 2 new cars, and then I have 5 used cars.
Okay.
What did you do new used mix?
Well, I came up with 7 new cars.
Oh, okay.
And then the idea is that we try to think of the cheaper, how to get a cheaper vibe, how to get the same vibe for less money.
Got it. Okay.
Is that what you did or no?
Yeah,
We've done a lot of pre-production.
We always do this every time. We go, here's the topic, and we go, great, and then we meet, and then we find a different solution. But I think what I did, I just went right to the used cars themselves, but it should be very clear which ones they align with. So I did mid-engine, front engine, and then some more exotic stuff.
Oh, I did a little different. So I have front engine Ferrari, mid-engine Ferrari, Lamborghini, new 911. Cayman GT4, Nissan GT-R, and McLaren Artura. And then we have the cheaper versions.
Ooh, okay.
Those.
I like the exercise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
So, front engine Ferrari. Guys, just one more quick break. A reminder that my WCCS hats are now for sale in our store. This has been by far the most requested piece of merch, and now you can get one for yourself. Beautifully embroidered, flex fitting everybody. Head over to thesmokingtireshop.com or go to thesmokingtire.com and click on that shop banner, and that'll take you over there. They are in the store now. Get it while you can. 812, F12.
So my cheap version of a front engine thing was a 2003 CL600. It comes with a V12.
Oh, that's a 4-seater. That's a big luxury coupe.
Big luxury coupe. It was more. I was basically more aimed at like cheap Bentley experience.
Oh, okay.
But if we're going to say front engine V12, for Ferrari, there's not many of them unless you want to go drop down to Jaguar.
I would say second gen Viper.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a 1.5 gen, like a 96
GTS.
to 2000 Viper GTS.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably a third to a quarter of the price of a used Ferrari F12 or 812, and will give you a more exciting experience than a Corvette, a more exotic experience than a Corvette, but still that kind of big front engine vibe.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
Not bad?
Yeah.
Pretty good one.
I also learned that you can buy, for $26,000, you could have bought a Brabus CL600. And that was only a year ago on Cars and Bits. Now, if it breaks, it will cost you $200,000.
Yeah.
But holy shit, that's a lot of car.
That's a lot of car. So mid-engine Ferrari, what would be a cheaper version of a Ferrari 458 or 488 or a newer mid-engine Ferrari?
I think a Lotus Emira or Evora are pretty good. I mean, especially the Emira looks amazing. It looks very exotic. It looks above its price point.
Right.
Engine sounds different enough.
Yeah.
My budget version of a mid-engine sports car was an MR2 turbo.
See, that I have as a budget GT4. Like an MR2 turbo with specifically with like the JDM engine.
Right.
But that could the Lotus Evora or Emira could also be that. Maybe we have the mid-engine, the Evora or the Emira is the budget mid-engine Ferrari, and then the MR2 is the budget GT4.
Yes, I agree with that. And then what is the budget MR2?
Oof.
Fiero.
Yeah, right, for sure. But also, let's see. You could do. There's not. If you're in Europe, I suppose an Alpine could be there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of mid-engine cars on the market.
Right.
So your budget a 488 is like probably like $300,000, right? High twos, low threes. You could get a early McLaren 570 for like $130,000.
Yes.
So not budget, but half price.
Right.
For the same kind of vibe.
I think also used R8.
Yeah.
If you get an automatic first gen, which it will sound and look exotic as hell, those are like 80.
Yeah.
Or maybe even less. If you want a manual, it's more expensive.
That would be for my budget Lambo.
I agree. I had it listed for that too.
Yeah, budget Lambo is R8.
Yeah.
Right? There's no other way to do that.
V10 performance. Mm-hmm.
Or you could go, I don't know how much a Yalpa goes for these days, but you could go, a budget Lambo could just be a Lambo that nobody's heard of before. So you could get an Arauco or a Yalpa, and they're probably not that much. Have you seen, is there one for sale? Or
I just pulled one up because it's there's so much Pantera in it.
There's a lot of Pantera.
Yeah.
Also, Pantera. If you want budget vintage exotic, you could go Pantera. Like rather than a Countach or a Testarossa, a Pantera could do it.
Yeah.
Some of them are great.
I think they look amazing.
They do.
Are they cheaper than your 328 though? Maybe by like 20 grand?
Comparable. Yeah, it depends on the car. Like earlier ones, the ones that don't have the impact bumpers, those are the most expensive. And then some of the later ones with the fender flares are kind of expensive, and everything in between is sort of cheap. But yeah, there's also, of course, the Ferrari Mondials and 308s and the Yalpas and that kind of stuff. And I was just talking to a client this morning who's got a 328 here, and he could afford a more expensive Ferrari, but he loves his 328. He loves that it's not insanely expensive to buy and run, and he really enjoys driving it, and I understand. All right, so GT4 or Spider,
of course.
MR2 would be your cheaper version of that.
Oh yeah, I had the GTS 4.0 just as a cheaper mid-engine car. Especially if we're comparing to like Cayman R is a very good one too. But you can get a GTS 4.0 now for like $85,000, and if you're willing to get the flat 4 turbo, $65,000, which it has the chassis. It's great, very fast and all that stuff. Why?
You can make them really fast.
I don't know. I just didn't fall in love with the engine. And I think for me, if we're going cheap exotic, I think the flat 6 and the 4.0 sounds exotic, whereas the flat 4 does not.
I think the 981 car sounds better because it has the collector exhaust. So the GTS 4.0 has the split exhaust, whereas the other one, it sounds more like a 911.
True.
So if you want exotic, you might want a 981 and not a 718. What about a cheaper alternative to a modern 911? There really isn't one other than just an older 911.
Is there a rear engine anything like a Renault R5 turbo?
Anything weird with a rear engine is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
There's like Carmen Gias, but those are like
terrible. If you're going to get a Carmen Ghia, I don't know, get a used 911 or
you can still get a
Boxer.
996 turbo for like half the price of a new 992 Carrera S.
Mm-hmm. I think 996 is the answer.
Yeah.
That's the cheap 911.
Or 997s right now. They're still reasonable if they're not like the GTS or the GT3.
Yeah, but I think like what do you think if you go Carrera S to Carrera S, 996 to 997?
Oh,
like
yeah.
what is the price delta there? Just because of the headlights and the interior.
Yeah, the car is more different than that, but I mean I don't know, but 15% maybe, something like that. What is the working man's version of the Nissan GT-R?
Well, we're going used GT-R or new GT-R?
No, like a new one.
Well, I think the working man version, then it's a 997 turbo.
No.
Because it's probably less expensive. Or a 996 turbo. I mean, you can go Mitsubishi 3000 GT.
Yeah.
Which still look awesome and are technically twin turbo all-wheel drive.
Yes.
If they're not broken.
Or like or like, an Evo, an Evo 9, Evo 10.
I think probably Evo 10, right? With the
paddles.
Paddles, that's probably the closest.
That's a budget GT-R.
Yeah.
You could also go, R32 Skyline, which is a cheaper and very fun and very fast GT-R.
And a good argument would be R32 GT-R or 996 turbo. Just comparing them, that'd be fun. Speaking of, you could do Golf R.
Right.
Golf R is the cheap
That is a cheap GT-R.
I think.
Yeah.
R35, it's cheaper than that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah. And budget version of a McLaren Artura. And the reason I said Artura is because it's the hybrid.
Right.
So, like, is there a budget version of that kind of technology?
A hybrid mid-engine,
yeah,
high-performance car.
I mean, the E-Ray. The E-Ray is about somewhere between a half and a third of the price of an Artura. E-Ray is
or
like
an
110,
NSX.
or a 2017 NSX.
Yeah.
That's where you probably want to be. That's like $100,000 for one of those.
Yeah, either one of those things. And I think the NSX will be more rare, so that might stand out a little bit more like an Artura versus the C8s. You see more and more of them.
Yeah, C8s, I mean, and you wouldn't immediately know an E-Ray from another C8 just by looking at it. You have to have a pretty keen eye.
Another good option for a cheaper F12 is any used Aston DB9. Like manuals I couldn't find a manual on Cars and Bids or Auto Tempest anywhere.
I think they only made like 100 of those.
So like that's kind of out. But if you get an automatic, they still, if you're clean and they're polished up, they still look so expensive and so good.
Yeah. Or a V12 Vantage.
I mean, that car is
V12 Vantage
so
is
sweet.
Excellent.
It's a real good time.
Yeah, and they're like 100 and something compared to 200 and something for the F12.
Yeah, true.
Or 300 and something for the 812.
The other working man's option for a 488 would be a new C8 Z06.
For sure. Yeah.
130 base.
Yeah.
That is a ton of car for 130 base.
Yeah.
And I recognize to anybody listening that that's a lot of money. We're just like, we're playing in new car comparison and we're also playing in used car comparison.
Yeah, and compared to a Ferrari, which is 4 something, that's a value.
Yeah.
It is a lot of discount.
Yeah.
For what is arguably a car that drives just as nice, if not better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that game. Thank you to who was
John Osborne.
Thank you, John. Good game for today. I am into it. I'm excited to have Peter on tomorrow. I have a lot of questions for him. So, did you post that show in the Patreon yet?
Not yet.
Okay, make sure you do that. So we have.
He's the longevity man, right? He's like a brilliant doctor. And he's quite famous right now. Yeah,
he studies, how to live longer.
Right, but that's like his focus. It seems to be.
Yeah. But we've got some Patreon questions. Of course, if you want to ask us questions for the show, give us some topic ideas. If you want to get the show live, if you want to get the show before everybody else, if you want an ad-free listening experience, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast is where you do it. Make sure you head over to our merch store where our WCCS hats are now in. They are embroidered on the right side. They're flex fit, great hats. I wear mine every single day, and now you could get one for yourself. Let's see. Paul says, old Top Gear question, which company made the most truly great cars?
Depends on the era, right? I mean, we've talked about this before by decade. every company's had hits and misses.
Yeah, it's tough for me not to say Porsche because they have the fewest misses.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Like the only real miss is like the 924.
Yeah, that was an awkward phase for them.
But like
that's true. But like the Cayenne worked well, the Macan worked well.
Yeah,
911 obviously.
All the other cars are like what I would want to drive in any of those given classes of vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And they kept their selection small for a long time, so the quality control was really good, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
I think companies that made fewer cars, they have an advantage there.
Good question says, what extinct auto form factors warrant a fresh look with EV powertrains? So genre of car. So the suggestions are like convertible two-door SUVs, personal luxury coupes, mini trucks, etc.
Well, as we said when we had the Rolls Royce here, like EVs suit personal luxury coupes so well.
Yeah.
Because if what you want is to be disconnected from the world and just, in a serene pod,
yeah.
The EV powertrain's the way to go.
Yeah, like big convertible cruisers are where I like my EVs at. Mm-hmm. And also they partly have been resurrected, like stuff like the Fiat Jolly. Like we now have like neighborhood electric vehicles that are like sort of Fiat Jolly like
the Mayev or whatever it's called.
Yeah, like the Mokes and the new Myers Manx electric neighborhood vehicle thing. Like there's like little buggies that are like designed for cruising beach neighborhoods that are that.
Yeah.
So I think they've already kind of got us there.
That's true, especially because that's such a social vehicle. Like
mm-hmm.
You want to sit in the Moke and talk to your friends. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want a loud VW engine behind me. So that benefits from the silence.
Yeah, for sure. Derek Yegan says, now that you have driven the Miata, would you rather a momentum car or a power car for daily driving / canyon cruising? Are there any examples of cars that buck the trend in terms of how you drive them? I mean, I think we've said it a bunch of times, but like, it depends what does your daily driving look like. Here in LA, our daily driving is a fucking shitty grid, and canyon driving is a completely separate kind of driving, and there's almost nothing in between. So,
I think I'd rather, if I had to choose and we live here, I would go momentum car. Because when I had a Miata here, I drove the shit out of it all over the place, and it was always a good time, and I wasn't ever going that fast. And then, get up to the canyons, it's still a fun car, because managing momentum is still a good time. But when we've had press cars with 500, 600, 700 horsepower, just sitting in traffic feels stupid, and you can never, ever get into the throttle at all unless it's 2 a.m. and you're on the highway by yourself. Like, it just feels like... It feels like I'm constantly disappointed with what I'm able to do. Yeah.
I mean, I need to have a little bit of power. Like, I liked the Miata, but if I had my choice, it would go a little faster.
True.
But I'd rather have a lightweight, agile car than a big, fast car. I do need kind of a minimum of power to be fun. Like, I would like my cars to have, like, really between 3 and 500, anywhere in that range. 300 is where it starts to be like, okay, this thing goes pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And beyond 500 is where it's like, I don't need this anymore. So like, the Carrera T or a Carrera S, like that's enough car for anything, pretty much. But it's... And like when we went to I didn't drive, but when I was in the Macan E, the guy was talking about, it's got double wishbone front and it's this, and I was like, do you live in Los Angeles? Because, like when I was just in this past weekend, I was in Connecticut with my family, and every drive there's curves, there's hills, there's overcrests, there's compressions, because they live in the middle of the fucking woods. Mm-hmm. And the roads are really great and beautiful. And so every drive to the grocery store, you want a car that handles well. But like here, it makes no difference at all for your everyday driving. So it just, and I'm trying to say, like, for the person who asked the question, like, you know, whether your Canyon car and your daily driver can be the same thing depends entirely on what kind of daily driving you're doing. Bad Gardener says, if you wanted to be like Zach and put a couple 100,000 miles on a sports car, what are the best options for 25,000? Must have a back seat and trunk for kid stuff. 25,000, not a lot of money in today's market.
Can you get a 996 for that?
Not a good one. One that already needs, for 25K, your 996 needs 15K in stuff. You could, you could probably get a decent Cayman or Boxster, but needs back seat. You could probably get a pretty nice BMW 1 Series. You probably want a 128, not a 135 for longevity. But I mean, I don't want to be Richie Rich over here, but 25K is not a lot in a sports car that you need to be reliable for a couple 100,000 miles.
F-body Camaro, simple.
Boy, would that be misery.
It would, but that would work.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably keep running.
Maybe a G8.
It would be exactly the same number of amount of crappy in 25 years as it would be today.
Like a G8 maybe, or ATS-V. That might be under 25 now. That car handled well, just sounded bad.
Yeah, I don't know how they are lengthwise, but like, I don't know, man. I mean, you could buy a great low mileage BMW 330 E46 330.
Oh,
if
definitely.
You maintained
Those are all over.
That would last a long time.
Integra.
Yeah.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
That would last forever.
Yeah.
I would go Integra. Backseat, fine. Hatch,
Civic
fine.
SI. You know, it's a 2 or 4 door Civic SI from like 2010 to 2015. Those would last a really long time.
Or you could get the nicest 240SX in the world.
Yeah. Isaiah Stanley says, is Porsche soft top look and maintenance worth it versus hard top in the Northeast? Enjoyed renting a Boxster in LA, but not sure if it's worth it if I'm only going to use the top for a few months. I mean, that's like a you question. That's not a me question. I mean, a Boxster is a pretty well insulated convertible compared to like a Miata or something else. So you can drive it with the top up and it'll be fine. But
I always feel bad when I see a convertible that has a lot of snow on it. You know, it was left outside. It just seems like that's going to stretch the fabric and just hurt it. I don't know. And I don't know if it does or not. I just look at it and go, I don't think that's what it's for.
I don't know. When I grew up in the Northeast, I knew a lot of people that had like BMW convertibles and stuff, and that was their car, and they drove it all year, and they put the top down when they could. I mean, the thing is the word worth it. You know, like I had my Corvette in the Northeast, and it wasn't a soft top. It was a removable hard top, but I took that top off like a lot. And if you have a Boxster that's got a power top that goes up and down in 5 seconds, you're probably going to use it a lot. I mean, if it's not freezing cold out, you'll probably put the top down because that's nice. Put a hat on, whatever. So, like, if you very much enjoy it with the top down and you drive it with the top up and you don't hate it, I don't know. Like,
it depends on how much joy this person gets from driving a convertible. Like, you know, so if they love it, and like I don't really care about convertibles, even living out here. I'm softening on them a little bit, no pun intended, but like, all right, I'm fine. But if this person came back from California and was like, holy shit, I love this. I love having the wind in my head or hair, whatever. Like, you might enjoy it even in the wintertime, so go for it. But like you said, worth it is a financial question and a very subjective enjoyment question.
Yeah.
You know?
I still enjoy my car with the top up, not as much as I enjoy it with the top down, but like, it's not terrible. And my top's annoying to put up and down. But like on the Miata or when we had the Boxster 4.0 with the power top, like that top's going up and down all the time.
Yeah.
I might put the top down for half of a drive. you know, or like when I was driving the new hybrid 911 in Spain, it rained, stopped raining, rain stopped. I drove the car for fucking 3 hours. I put the top up and down like 4 times. It was a power top. It took 5 seconds. I didn't even have to come to a stop. So like, I think if you have it, you'll use it. But if you know, yeah, I don't know. I would say go for it if you didn't mind it with the top up. But it's also a subjective question. Also, what is the best Turo rental that fits 3 people for Newport Beach plus canyons?
The F80 M3.
Yeah, the M3 or M4 probably. That's still got a pretty big trunk. They're cheap on Turo.
Yeah.
Fucking real cheap.
It's a lot of car for that.
Yeah. Flannel Bob says, if you had to live in a car for a year, what car would you choose to live in? Converted Sprinter.
Of course. I mean, yeah, one that's designed for sleeping. Yeah. Absolutely. Or the Lyric looks like a pretty long wagon. And then I could also run the AC at night without having to run the engine.
Right.
So an EV might actually be a smart move.
Yeah. If you're living in your car, how do you think they feel when you pull up to the public charging station? They're probably not about that.
I just go early in the morning when no one's there. Yeah. But when I was living in Santa Monica, there were a lot of people that would sleep in their car on my street and a lot of Priuses and stuff. And you just walk by and you hear the engine on. And I mean, they're there all night with the engine running. And I don't know, I just wouldn't want to have that smell. So I'd go EV.
Yeah. Mama Miata. What feature on a car you've driven or owned previously could you not stand, and what feature would you replace it with? Huh, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, his car that had the BMW MPG gauge that moved with every movement of your foot. It was very
nothing.
Silly.
That gauge does nothing. Let's see, feature that I had. Okay, I mean, this problem has been solved already, but I had like multiple cars that had like very early iPod interfaces, like wonky ass like proprietary dongles.
Yeah.
And I would replace that with CarPlay.
Well, like the Audis for what, 8 years had the old iPod dongle.
And before that, my John Cooper Works Mini, you would have to make playlists within your iPod and call them like Mini 1, Mini 2, Mini 3, and you could only play those playlists it would only know to like read those playlists. Yeah. It was pretty stupid.
I don't know if this is a feature, but my 97 Jetta had the vacuum door locks.
Oh,
but if there was a leak anywhere in the system, you couldn't unlock the car. And that happened.
Unlock the car?
If the car was locked already, because it wouldn't pressurize.
That's fucking bad.
It was not good. So I would replace those with a mechanical system or an electronic system the way Japan did.
Yeah, that's really bad. I'd like to replace my Porsche's electronic oil dipstick with a regular one. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a very good. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it stinks.
It makes oil changes take a long time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really annoying. Good question, though.
Yeah.
James Cowley says, what's worse in an office parking lot situation? Someone who parks outside the lines or someone who parks with their overhang blocking the sidewalk?
Oh, outside the lines.
Outside the lines.
Because the ripple effect across society is so bad.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose we need to empathize with like a wheelchair user here.
True.
Where overhangs are bad. But I would say most people can walk around the overhang, whereas parking outside the lines does have that ripple effect.
Yeah. And a lot of parking lots have the block, so even if they pull as far up to it as they can where they like rip their own bumper off, they're overhanging like, I don't know, 8 inches onto the sidewalk. They're not like 2 feet, but of course there's variables.
Dude, I'm pretty sure I talked about this on the show, but when we went to Dollywood for Thanksgiving, the parking lots at Dollywood are fucking huge, right? And the closest parking lot, it's like parking lots, numbered A through J or whatever. And
doorbell, do you need to get that?
No, Victor's here. But the closest one is like the handicap lot, and it's probably 500 spaces. It's all handicap spaces. Wow. And so it's Dollywood. It's Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And so the number of let me just see that. Hold on. Sorry, people. Victor! Sorry. Pause the show. I have to open the door. Of course. Cleaning lady. Always. So at Dollywood, the handicap lot is like 500 spaces. The number of F-350s, like extendo cab, just ridiculous. 80% of the cars in the lot were like Super Duty trucks with handicap placards on them. Mad overhangs.
Yeah.
Just crushing into the pedestrian walkway that you had to walk through.
Especially if they have like a tow hitch on them or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of vehicles.
My sister-in-law smashed her shin on one of those big drop-down tow hitches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I saw an Instagram video where a dad's trying to like run to grab his kid in the yard and he trips over his own tow hitch and just like shatters his shin.
Dude, why does... we don't have the time to read that 500-word essay that Siamese sports cat enthusiast wrote, but we're going to read the last sentence. What's your experience with the Stick Shift 1 series? Well, we did a build on one of those, and it was very fun to drive. You should go watch our videos of our project car giveaway with the 135, and it was a fun little car.
And I think Jack Baruth called the 128 like also a very playful, fun thing. It's lighter in the front, a little bit more reliable, so you can do that too.
Yeah. Vaj Diaper is a very fun.
That's great.
My sister and I are visiting from Europe later. We're looking for a V8 experience. A Mustang is a good choice. I'm not that into Camaros or Challengers. Is there a way to circumvent the or similar situation at big rental companies? Also, is there any chance to rent a manual? Well, big companies will not rent manuals.
Right.
They also will possibly not have V8s. I mean, you're not going to get the or similar. If you go to like Enterprise and you get a V8 Mustang GT, there isn't an or similar. Like you're going to get that car because that'll be considered a special car.
Same with like the Hertz GTs.
Yeah,
the gold ones.
Yeah. But if you rent a Mustang from Hertz, it's going to be like a 4-cylinder turbo. It's not going to be a GT.
Yeah, and it'll probably be a convertible because those are very popular in LA.
I understand not wanting to take the risk with Turo. My suggestion would be, there's a 2-part suggestion. One is rent a fucking whatever car from Enterprise or Hertz, just a fucking bullshit car to get around LA, and then Turo something really fun for like a day. You know what I mean?
It's a good idea.
Rent a Nissan Altima or whatever to run around LA and do errands or see shit, and then rent a 911 for like $150 a day. And that way you're not, spending all this money and for just, renting a V8 Mustang just so you can sit in traffic in doesn't help you much. But like you could have a better car for the one day you're going in the canyons. And you could it could be a manual, like, because you can rent manual cars on Turo. I totally understand. I don't like using Airbnb for a vacation, because if you're in a place you don't know and it falls through or something's wrong, it's like, no, I want a business to fucking fix this. I don't need Dave, to fix this. But I think there's the best of both worlds, right?
I think that's a good idea, because I think the only other option is to just rent the Mustang GT and just drive that around, and you have to just make the compromise that you're not going to get a manual from a big company, and you just have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Scroll down a little bit. Okay. Frazier says, watch question. Have watch people ruined the high-end car market? The recent release of the Bugatti Tourbillon, the Gordon Murray T50, the Paganis, the Singer 911 are all jewelry cars, very elaborate items for other men to look at. Some watch people are calling EVs the quartz era for cars, and loving its polarization of a community. No, I don't think that's right. I don't think watch people have ruined the high-end car market. I think that there are certainly parallels. The part about the quartz era is not entirely wrong. If you want a car that is a great appliance, just like if you want a watch that tells the most accurate time, an EV or a quartz watch is what you want. But that's not why passionate people are into cars or watches. Very passionate people are typically into machinery, gears, precision, engines and stuff like that. And so with the T50 or the Paganis, or certainly the Tourbillon is very on the fucking nose. It's named after a part of a watch. I think when people are spending that much money, be it on a watch or a car, they want to see exposed engineering, like skeleton watches where you can see the movement, or tourbillons where there isn't really a proper function in the modern world, but stuff moves in there with springs and gears, and you can see the action of it. But I don't think it's the sentence about elaborate items for other men to look at. I mean, there is some truth to that in terms of the fact that, like, yeah, if you have a really expensive car, other people are gonna look at it and admire it. But like, my guess is if you have one of those cars and you own it, you probably enjoy looking at it and using it.
It's probably a mixed bag, but I also think that the quartz era for cars is not exclusive to EVs. We've had reliable appliance cars for a very long time, like a Honda Civic from '91 or a Honda Accord. Like, I'm not interested in the machinery. I'm not going, oh, wow, like the engineering of this is incredible. That was the ICE version of an EV.
Well, we had, before EVs became very mainstream, and before quartz movements became mainstream, all watches were mechanical, and some were beautiful bits of engineering, and some were just regular ass watches that nobody gave a shit about.
Right.
And so that's that. The quartz thing is like when quartz watches took over, it started sort of in the middle, right? Sort of like how EVs did, like upper middle. And then they became very affordable, and so a lot of the cheap watches became quartz. But then they tried to do some very high-end quartz, and they were not very successful at it. Sort of like there's been some very high-end EVs, the Rimac and some other stuff that are cool engineering, but that the target audience doesn't really want to buy. Mm-hmm. And the target audience who's buying a 7-figure car, they want analog engineering the old school way, but done to modern standards. And furthermore, they want to see it working, hence the exposed gear linkages.
Right, or the tangible feedback. You go like, I feel it working.
I feel it working. Mm-hmm. And if I'm looking into the Bugatti's gauge cluster, I can literally see it working. And so there are definitely parallels to the quartz crisis in watch, but I think it's a little cynical to just say that, yes, these unbelievable pieces of engineering are for other men to look at and not for the person who... I bet if you were to meet the owner of a T50, I bet they personally enjoy it. It's not about just showing it off to other people.
I'm sure there's people that fall into both camps. Yeah. I mean, there's so many circles in the Venn diagram of why people buy a car.
Yeah. Murray mentioned... is trying to figure out to get the Mazda Miata RF, the retractable hardtop, or the ND3 with a soft top. And he goes into a bunch of things about the price difference between the two. I wouldn't buy the hardtop one. It wouldn't do it for me.
Well, he's had his Cabrio top slashed before. So yeah, if security is a concern, I would definitely go with a hardtop because they're both loud inside. So, I mean, the RF weighs more.
Yeah.
And, I enjoy the security of a hardtop. Although when my Miata got broken into in 2010, I think, they broke one of the little windows. So they can always get in there. It's
Yeah.
just it's quieter with a knife than a hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you are concerned about someone cutting your top, then I guess get the RF, but the RF doesn't do it for me. It's not much quieter than the soft top.
No.
I mean, if someone really wants to get into your car, they're going to break into your car. They'll break a fucking window, but...
Yeah, I mean, it was cheaper to replace that window than it would be to replace a soft top, though.
Sure.
But, like, my soft top was new when I bought my car. I think it was, like, $900. So when they broke the window for $60, I was relieved. I was really, really relieved.
Sean Finney says, I already have a sports car. What would you rather daily? A Lexus LC 500 2018 or a 2016 Panamera GTS? He gives the game away here, though. He says, I don't need the back seats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, LC 500.
We say this over and over, guys. Write it down. Put it on your fucking fridge. Get a magnet. If you don't need back seats in a car, don't get a car with back seats. It's a lot more shit you got to lug around. And the car will drive much better if it doesn't have back seats you don't need.
And the Panamera is a great sedan, engineering-wise, but in LA at least, I don't look twice at them because there's so many, and I go, it's a 5-door sedan basically. Yeah. LC 500 looks like a concept car.
Yeah,
I mean, that is,
they're rad.
It's timeless now. It's going to be timeless later. Like, get that car.
Yeah. I also might argue that an LC 500 has a value floor higher than a Panamera.
Probably.
Yeah. Andy in Colorado got a GT4 RS allocation. Congratulations. How much of a pain is Alcantara to keep clean on a steering wheel shifter? Bad enough to replace it with leather. I have Porsche calls it Race Tex on my car. I wish I got leather. Not because it's getting gross, but because I drive it like it could start getting gross at any minute. I wish I didn't have to think about that.
Yeah.
I wish I could just run my hands all over the wheel all the time. Instead, a lot of times I drive it with minimal contact on the Alcantara just because of what might happen someday.
I wonder when we will hit peak Alcantara style fabric. Like, I remember when it was rare, and so then it was exciting, and you go, oh shit, they spent the money for this. This is like a race car. When you're wearing racing gloves, it feels amazing. And now it just seems so common, and a lot of us talk about if it's a daily driven car or a frequently driven car, dealing with the mess. Like, I know Larry has a product and a technique to clean it up, but with leather, it's just much simpler and more resilient. Yeah.
I did find out from Marco that an OEM replacement steering wheel for my car is like $400. So it's actually shockingly cheap.
With leather on it?
With leather on it.
Holy moly.
So yeah, because I was like, I'll call R Strada and I'll have it rewrapped in leather when I decide to. And Marco was like, why would you do that? Just buy a new steering wheel from Porsche.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess.
That's like having track wheels.
Yeah.
And street wheels.
Yeah, like maybe Andy in Colorado wants to buy a second steering wheel.
Yeah.
Like just to have.
I would do that.
Yeah.
Because then you also want to keep the OEM one because it's a GT4 RS, and you don't want to sell it with changed steering wheel.
If he can still spec it, if he's still speccing it, I would spec the leather wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been on track how many times with cars that had leather-ish wheels, and I never had a problem gripping it unless I was like really sweaty, in which case, if I had Alcantara, like gloves would be the answer anyway.
Yeah.
So
I regret getting the Alcantara steering wheel, and I should have gotten leather, and maybe I'll change it at some point. All the pizza in my belly. Wait, that question doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. I tried to read that question, and I've now read it 3 times. Can you understand what that question means?
Basically, why would Porsche keep building a Cayman or Boxster if the 911 feels like a mid-engine experience?
It doesn't.
Yeah, they feel different.
They definitely feel different, and they're different size.
True.
And they definitely have different dynamics. Yeah, it doesn't. The Porsche doesn't feel like that. The 911 doesn't feel like that. Here for Matt's Cats. Matt and Zach, you each get 1 day to be Lord of Automotive regulations in the U.S. What's one rule you repeal, one law you enact, and one feature you mandate on all cars? One law that I enact, nationalize legal lane splitting. There's absolutely
for motorcycles.
There is no reason that lane splitting should not be legal in all 50 states.
I agree. As long as people adhere to kind of the speed limits they're supposed to with that particular activity.
Yeah.
I would enact the law that if a passenger is sitting in the front right seat, you can operate whatever function you want on the center screen.
So
type in address,
that's
I don't care.
a rule you repeal. I would repeal that one. I would repeal the typing doesn't work on the nav screen.
Yeah.
When there is a passenger in the car.
If it detects it's over 60 pounds.
Yeah,
like,
which the car knows.
Yes, because it yells at you if you don't put the seatbelt on there.
Yeah.
Like if my dog jumps in the front, which granted we clip him in the back, all that stuff, but like sometimes pulling into the parking garage, I'll let him out. And he'll jump in there and then the thing starts beeping at me because it thinks there's a person sitting there with no seatbelt on.
Yeah, that's a good repeal.
Yeah.
I would repeal front plate regulations. They're ugly.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't have a good reason. I'm sure there's a good reason that they want them, but I think they're ugly.
I think now, I wonder if like, express freeways and tolls, I wonder if they have cameras that film the rear of the car or if it's always at the front.
Yeah.
But you can just turn those cameras around. Bingo.
I would also, this is California only, but I would remove smog requirements for a certain type of vehicle. Like vehicles that were sold like gray market, like basically like 80s cars and 90s like Japanese imports. Like once it's over 25, rather than being the hard 1976 before or after, I would change the smog rules to be a rolling 25 year. Because gray market cars from the 80s that couldn't pass smog, like there's not. I think the state of California could raise more revenue if they allowed those types of cars to be registered in California, where we paid taxes on them, and they gave smog exemptions, where now people are registering those cars in Montana or other places because not necessarily just to avoid California taxes, but because California does not provide a path to registering those cars legally because of smog, even when there's like 7 of them in the whole state.
I would do that if there was a mileage limit or something, because rolling 25 years, like 25 years ago isn't that long.
Right.
Like I'm happy to smog my car, and my car is 22 years old.
Right.
So I think you could get into territory where people are driving Chevy 1500s around or whatever.
Maybe it's 30 years or whatever. But
I think, similar note, I would enact a law where, and I don't know how it would work, but you track if someone is actually using their 6,000-pound Range Rover as a commercial vehicle. So I would try to find a way to. I recognize that some people are livery drivers. A lot of the people that have Montana plates in Malibu are not. So yeah.
One feature you mandate on all cars. What do I want all cars to have that they don't have?
That's pretty tough.
Cooled seats.
I mean, I like that they all have backup cameras now. That's really handy.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh, we could do the blue light on cars that have self-driving capability.
Oh, okay.
So that other people know that no one's paying attention.
Yeah, I would like to mandate that if your car is sold with a GPS system, and for those of you listening, I'm air quoting GPS system, that system must operate on a satellite connection.
Not on cell phone.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe on, I was going to say on off-road vehicles, they have a front camera because it's so handy.
It is super handy.
That's why it's an option.
Yeah, super, super handy.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. That's our cruise show for today.
Aggressive ticketing for lane lurking or for lane camping in the left lane. Like aggressive. We need to teach people. It is a huge problem here.
Yeah.
It is a big, big, big problem.
Yeah, in California, the right lane is actually the fast lane.
It's the passing lane now.
Yeah.
In most places.
It's inverted.
It really is.
Yeah, the problem is so bad that lanes are inverted.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. Well, that is our show. Thank you to our patrons for asking such great questions. Make sure to get in on the fun at patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. Also, our hats are up in the merch store, my WCCS hats. Get them while they're hot at thesmokingtireshop.com or at thesmokingtire.com and under the shop tab. And we'll be back Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific with Dr. Peter Attia. Very interested to talk to him. And then next week we are going down to Miami to drive some vintage supercars with Curated. And we may try to record a podcast with John Tamarian as well. So let's keep that one rolling. See you guys later. Bye.